She was stabbing the baby with a needle from time to time and doing things like shaking her cradle incredibly hard to torment her. Parents with nanny cams, what have you caught your babysitter doing? I house/dog sit for friends of my parents. The first time I did it they mentioned they had a security camera by the front door that was motion activated, and I didn't really think anything of it. They were gone for a few weeks, they come home, their 2 giant huskies are happy, I get paid and all was well. A couple of weeks later my mom calls me laughing. My parents had dinner with the friends I dog sit for and they showed a video to my parents from the front door cam. Apparently, all it showed was me sprinting full speed down the hallway, a dog toy in hand, biggest stupid grin on my face, followed by the 2 huskies running and sliding after me, followed by me, followed by the huskies, over and over again. I sit for them as often as I can. Watched her outside playing with my dogs, she was dog sitting. Our yellow Labrador and golden retriever puppy started munching the blueberries right now off our blueberry bushes. They know damn well they're not supposed to get into the blueberry patch. We watched our dog sitter run over to them and try to get them to stop. She then ran inside and ran back out with a bowl. She proceeded to race the dogs for the blueberries. It had to be one of the highlights of our trip. We came home to a bowl of blueberries in the fridge and 2 very guilty puppers. It was pretty funny watching her first try to call them back. It was all pantomime to us, as we were watching from an audio-less outdoor security camera. She then turned on her heels and bolted inside. She came flying out with a mixing bowl and frantically started picking while those 2 unrepentant little shits just kept snacking away. My wife and I were watching it all from Kauai, on my iPad. I screenshotted and everything. My story isn't that interesting but I have a camera to check in on my rabbit when I'm not there. The biggest surprises were mostly just how almost nobody followed my pet sitting instructions. The one exception, ironically, was my brother who claimed to hate the rabbit and always wanted to get rid of it. I got an alert one day that my camera had detected movement while my bro was there taking care of him and I decided to take a peek. I opened the app connected to the camera and saw my bro walk into my room, lay on the floor, and start playing with my rabbit. It just warmed my heart. We have cameras outside of our house. One day my neighbor told me that he saw my bunnies roaming the streets a few times. I didn't believe him, so I took a look. One time at work I looked at the cameras and saw the gate slightly open, so I rewound the footage. I go to work super early so I watched as my wife fed them, then got ready for work. The bunnies peeked around the side of the house and waited to see my wife's car leave, then they pushed on the gate hard enough for the latch to set free, then they left one by one. Later before I got back home from work, they would make their way back and close the fucking gate. Smart little fuckers. I never knew the gate latch was so weak, so I fixed that problem. I dog sit for some neighbors, one of which told me she has a camera in the living room/dining room for her dogs. Do you know those ones that dispense treats? Anyways, I thought it was a strange essential oil diffuser until she told me what it was. I was being paid to play with them for an hour but she found out that I was actually staying for 2 or 3 hours. When she asked me about it I think I said something like I'd want someone to do the same for my dog. Ever since then she leaves me treats in the kitchen and even got me a Christmas present from the dogs. I was the kiddo. My mom often tells the story of how she watched me give a big hug to my babysitter who just broke down out of nowhere after serving me lunch. Turns out her dad had died a month back and it just wasn't a good day for her. I still remember you, Ms. Yancey. I hope you're doing just fine now. Not me but my aunt's friend set up a nanny cam because she noticed that every time she changed her child's diaper the child would start crying a lot more than usual. Turns out when they watched the nanny change her diaper, she would use Clorox wipes if they were nearby instead of grabbing the baby wipes. For anyone wondering what happened afterward, they fired the nanny immediately and the father became a stay-at-home dad. This isn't a bad one. My parents caught the babysitter carrying our 60-pound golden retriever like he was a baby. Friends of ours don't have kids but have dogs. They were going out of town and told the dog sitter about all of the cameras including the one that is outside but sometimes picks up reflections and will actively notify them of motion. The dog sitter seemed to get it but she forgot to convey that to her boyfriend who came out and walked around naked quite a bit. My parents hired a guy on Rover to watch their dogs and sleep at their house a few nights. They told him it was fine to have a friend or partner hang out during the day if he wanted. They got a notification from their doorbell camera in the middle of the night. The guy had invited his boyfriend over, and they were taking turns walking further and further out into the front yard naked, like a dare or something. Guess they had a thing for public nudity. I got a nanny cam to keep an eye out for my elderly grandfather, especially when the home aides were there. My grandfather started asking for lots of cash and couldn't remember what was happening to it. A brooch that my aunt was supposed to get disappeared, and then I heard reports of my grandfather being inappropriate with some of the home health aides. He was busted squirreling away his medication that he was supposed to be taking in his chair, giving money to an aide and sexually harassing another aide. Friend caught hers rummaging through her closet and stealing a blouse. She confronted her about it when she returned home, and the woman played innocent. She was wearing the fucking blouse. Friend realized shortly after that the woman was a pathological liar and a selfish bitch. The blouse incident was just the spark. They'd been close for a while, and it became clear she had a habit of stealing things, manipulating people, and screwing with their relationships. A lot of things had gone missing beforehand. Guess who had them? She also tried to convince my friend that her daughter was using, and started secretly texting her 9-year-old son demanding that he donate his belongings to her own less well-off grandchildren. We didn't have a nanny cam, but my mom set up the camcorder when she suspected our babysitter was stealing. And then caught the babysitter stealing. She returned most of the stuff when my mom threatened to report her to the police. I think she should still have reported her anyway. Now she probably just went on stealing at other people's places. My family bought one to see our dogs when we leave on vacation twice a year. It's one where they can hear us and we thought IDs be great. We hardly used it. We also asked our maid to dog sit for us while we were out. Once when we looked at the feed we saw the dog sitter there a solid 30 minutes early just petting the dogs and playing with them. She's since retired from working, but she was the sweetest old lady and we love her. Another time my dad left a wad of cash on top of the washing machine, about $600, and she put a rubber band around it with a note saying he misplaced it. Stories like this make me so happy. I was a nanny for a family for over 10 years. I moved 8 hours away but sometimes I drive up to stay with them if they need me for a weekend. I miss the kids so much. I also babysat/house cleaned all through high school and college. I pride myself on never stealing a thing, and never having laid a hand on a child. I'd rather maintain a great relationship and have guaranteed client base for years to come instead of a $20 object to pawn. Most they'd see me do on a nanny cam was picking my nose lol. Yes, I'm a heroin addict. I made no attempts at hiding it, but great job internet sleuths. I became addicted after moving away. The family knows, but they're my second family and still love me anyway, so it's almost like the addiction doesn't define me. Weird concept, huh? I have caught her making pillow forts that are heavily resistant to the monsters that may or may not come out during heavy thunderstorms with my kiddo. 20 minutes after bedtime. Needless to say she was dealt with appropriately. My uncle told me this once when a babysitter was holding his daughter, my older cousin, when she was a baby. The baby was playing with her toys and she somehow swallowed a small piece of something and the babysitter performed the Heimlich but for babies. There's a version of that for babies, I don't know where I found it though. She saved my cousin and her family was thankful. They have no idea where the babysitter is now but right now she's supposed to be around her late 40s. I asked my uncle about this and apparently, they know where the babysitter is. She is in California and she is a very well-paid doctor and makes over $310,000 a year physician. That's the only thing he knows since she left. My dad rescued my brother one time by balancing him on the palm of his hand, the heel resting under the rib cage. Dad proceeded to do a dropping motion with a quick stop at the bottom, almost WWE style, and the sudden stop with the palm on his chest did a Heimlich maneuver which resulted in the piece of hot dog he was choking on to smack me in the face from across the kitchen table. I've been a pretty regular weekend nanny for an amazing family for 4 years now. They've cycled through a couple of different weekday nannies since I've been with them. There is only one monitor and it's in the little dude's room. Once the mom showed me on the camera why they let one go. Little dude said mommy said I don't have to do that. And the nanny snapped back, well it doesn't matter, mommy is a bitch. And then dragged the kid out of the room by his shirt. Super fired. We have a security camera in my bedroom for my free roam bunny so we can keep an eye on her whilst on work if we go on holiday etc. Well, my dad is 50 and is a big bloke who acts like he doesn't like pets came over to visit one day whilst I was out. He went in my room and crouched down calling the bunny. He spent an hour trying to pet the rabbit and kept repeating in a soft voice, "I'm not going to hurt you, I just want to pet you and see how fluffy you are." He just about shit himself when I spoke through the security camera to tell him she's very fluffy. I'm not a parent, rather the child, and I had this nanny, or yaya as we would call it. It became useless because she soon found out and kept unplugging the camera. It turns out she was slowly stealing money from my family. We fired her. It was more of while we were out, she would unplug it and before we get back she would plug it again. At first, we thought, oh, maybe we need to restart the camera, it's just not connecting. And then it became so frequent to the point it was obvious she was unplugging it. Thank God she's not our yaya anymore. Not a parent. Caught my little sister's babysitter catching a good hour-long nap at 2 p.m. while my 1-year-old sister was up having the time of her life destroying my PlayStation. We once caught the nanny putting charcoal to feed them as a snack. This woman claimed that she thought it was a snack. It was in a charcoal box. My brothers were 4. A little late to the party, but here goes. My mom suspected our maid of stealing the silverware. And she's just fucking nosy. Anyway, the maid was indeed stealing the silverware. I think that ended up being overshadowed by my dad fucking her, though. Thanks for the gold. Who knew my dad's infidelity would one day pay off? We have a nanny cam and we caught our nanny dancing with our baby, making him laugh and giving him kisses. She's the best, and the cameras gave us the peace of mind to know she really treats him like her own. Well, a case which happened near where I live. Woman used to work, husband out of the country. Had a 2-year-old kid. They hired a nanny to look after him during the daytime. Day by day kid started looking malnourished. So she set up a spy cam. Apparently, the lady used to bring her kid and feed him all the food left for the kid she was supposed to babysit. Then she would feed the kid cheap biscuits. She was promptly handed over to the police. This isn't something that I caught a babysitter doing, but I remember that I once saw on TV the case of some parents that went with her baby to the doctor because she cried a lot for apparently no reason. The doctor told them that she looked really stressed and asked them if they were doing something that could make her act like that. They didn't. Then the doctor and the parents noticed some really tiny dots in the girl's belly and they had no idea where they came from. The babysitter told them that she had no idea, but they didn't believe her and secretly put cameras to spy what she was doing. Turns out that she was crazy. She was stabbing the baby with a needle from time to time and doing things like shaking her cradle incredibly hard to torment her. Of course, they called the police, confronted her, and she got arrested. A long time ago, a family friend had a full-time babysitter. After some time the kid would not sleep and would have extreme fits right before bedtime. It was really bad. The parents couldn't figure out why he was so inconsolable but decided to get a nanny cam. Through the cam, they discovered that whenever the kid didn't fall asleep right away or would just be fussy during nap time/sleep time, the nanny would beat the kid to make him sleep. It was in the early 2000s, so nanny cams were a novelty at that time, and I remember the family got fined for having audio because we lived in a 2-party consent state for audio, but damn. I cannot imagine how a parent can control themselves in a situation like this. Wish I had a nanny cam. My stepsister was watching my brother with disabilities for me. She would dump out the contents of his capsules, meds, and use them later. Didn't find out about it till he started having seizures constantly and ended up in the hospital for the 2nd time. I have rover sitters come in. Nothing weird. But honestly, if I pay you $30 to play with my dog for an hour, I expect more than you sitting on my couch and your phone while my dog tries to get your attention to play with him. I was the one caught in camera a few times. A family who had bunnies caught me on camera bopping noses to the beat of the song I was singing. Little bunny foo hopping through the kitchen, picking up all the lettuce and munchies munch. A different family saw me get fucking tackled by their 95-pound Mastiff puppy, and they immediately called me to make sure I didn't have a concussion since I just kinda laid there for a while. I was fine, I just got the wind knocked out of me. Yet another different family saw me reading a book to their kids, and later complimented all the voices I make. I had no idea they could hear audio and I got so embarrassed since I really did go all out. The family I nanny for told me that their previous nanny got caught doing loads of awful things. The couple that outraged me most was 1. Leaving their 3-year-old daughter in the tub with water up to her chest for 2 hours every day while she sat in another room unable to see said child. 2. Once she went running an errand with the same kid, and their doorbell camera caught her putting kid in car seat, not buckling her, and peeling off. The mom said you could see toddler trying to buckle herself in before they took off. 3. The camera was not in the bathroom, it was where they were able to see where the nanny was, room near the bathroom, and their kid if the door was left open, which it always was while she was bathing. 4. They thought she was a perfectly good nanny until their kid was saying weird things that were going on and they decided to watch the footage. They fired her after seeing what she was doing, and that's where I, Super Nanny, came in. The cameras weren't actually for the nanny. They were for their kid's therapist because she was prone to violent behavior and they were trying to fix it. I travel the US for work and am fortunate enough to be able to bring my 2 beagles with me. They have never been away from my side longer than the time I've been at work. They are 10 and 13. I have a camera that I use to check in on them sometimes, mostly because my larger beagle is quite the ingenious guy. Opening doors, scooting chairs over places so he can jump up onto the counters, etc. etc. Last year I was in Oregon and had to go home to Michigan for an emergency. I do not fly with them, I will only drive. So I was in a pickle and reluctantly hired someone off of Rover that was willing to come stay over at my hotel room for 3 days. She was great, kept up on texting me about the dogs, said things like tossing them a ball right now. So I would check in via the cam when I thought it was appropriate. This woman was amazing. Not only was she playing with them enough to make them exhausted, she was even teaching them new tricks, making them use their brains to solve puzzles, and even got my 42-pound beagle to get up on her back so she could do push-ups. She was an avid CrossFitter. I was extremely happy. I was the child and there weren't any nanny cams, but my parents had left a small bucket of toys and things to keep me busy and they hired a babysitter to watch me while they both had to take overtime at work and knew they would be gone most of the day. The babysitter moved that bucket of toys to another room, put me in a crib and proceeded to go off and read or something and left me there for hours with nothing to do, only coming back to check on me or feed me. My parents came back to me just sadly sitting in my crib. I pay my neighbor to feed the stray cats in my garden when I'm away for days at a time, and the camera caught my neighbor trying to come in by pole, bamboo, vaulting one time. He nailed it, amazingly. Person without kids here who plans to have kids. Parents, do you usually tell babysitters that you have a nanny cam installed? I'm curious and thinking about the potential legal and ethical implications both ways, and I'm guessing different states have different laws about recording persons without their consent. Not a nanny cam, but the video baby monitor managed to catch our then 1.5-month-old projectile vomiting on me, and then straight up into the mouth and on the face of my husband 2 minutes later. When I was around 12 years old, my parents caught my babysitter on camera stealing my NES games and shoving them into her pants and shirt. They confronted her about it and she kept denying it until Ninja Gaiden fell out of her pant leg. My mom took her into a room and made take out all the games she stole. She literally had games shoved under the strap of her bra on her back so that she could sneak them out of the house, and others were put inside the waistband of her underwear. She must have really thought about this for a while. Anyway, we got the games back and she was sent home without pay. Thank you for watching Reddit Space. Please subscribe if you love these Reddit stories.